everyone. My name is Betty. I run our GCS Connect platform and services. So I'm actually guest hosting today's Inclusion Series episode. And I'm really excited about our guest today. I'm going to bring out JaJuan Smart. And JaJuan, hi, JaJuan. How are you?
How you doing, Betty? I'm doing amazing. Yourself?
Good. I'm really excited for our conversation today. So, let's just jump right into it because I know time is of the essence. So, JaJuan, do you want to actually start off with just introducing yourself and a bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is JaJuan Smart. I'm a 14-year veteran of the United States Air Force. I started a company called Maktub Limitless, which we do diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting. What we try to do is we try to educate, train, provide consultation services to executives and everyone in between, from the people that's working in the field all the way up to your executive leadership. Put together different writing materials, introduce strategic partnership strategies, open up conversations for transactional communication, and we also create those alliances for multiculturalism to permeate throughout your organization. So in a nutshell, we try to connect people and create those opportunities for growth and development, which is the main goal of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
That's fantastic. So you basically help your clients with basically anything under the sun when it comes to improving diversity, equity, and inclusion within their business.
Spot on.
Great. And JaJuan, I know you've had quite the journey actually for your career, but from the Air Force to Maktub Limitless. Can you explain a bit about your journey, your career journey?
Yeah, so I transitioned from the United States Air Force in 2012, I believe, and I kind of went straight into contracting. So I still work with a lot of military personnel, but what I would say is during my lifetime, during my journey, I was exposed to a lot of different cultures, and I had the introspection to be able to really ingratiate myself in the journeys of other people, to really hone in and understand where the different backgrounds come from. So in 2020, I believe, with a lot of the social unrest that was climbing, the COVID, with COVID striking us all, I was able to be afforded the opportunity to lead a diversity working group. And in doing so, I really ingratiated myself in everything DEI and started learning so much about the journey, so much about everything that it encompasses. And I realized that I've been doing this, but now I have something that I can pinpoint. Now, with that being said, it's so much that I picked up. Started going get certifications, doing for diversity, equity, and inclusion, getting alternative dispute resolution certification, so that way I can really sit down and have conversations with a myriad of people from different backgrounds and be able to come to not necessarily a conclusion, but get us all in the same accord so that we can have a better understanding of each other. But during that journey, it's been absolutely fantastic. Again, I started Maktub back in 2021. And since then, we've been able to help many organizations across a broad spectrum of industries, whether it's been technology, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, group homes, healthcare and financing, agriculture industry, you name it. I've even helped people in the religious organizations help transform their diversity amongst their constituents.
That's great. And that's amazing work that you're doing. And, can you explain to our viewers, I suppose, sort of your personal experience when you were transitioning from the Air Force into the kind of regular workforce? I'm sure it must have been a bit jarring.
Yeah, so I remember back because I've always had the mindset that I'm going to do 4 years. I'm going to learn the technical acumen necessary in order to transfer my skills to the commercial or civilian sector, as we like to call it in the military. And so every 4 years I would re-enlist, and for various reasons, re-enlist. I know the first time I went through what's called the Transition Assistance Program for the Air Force, I saw so many people that were retiring be absolutely frightened because of the difference in the cultures of being in the military and those that from the commercial sector. And so I know I didn't want to be that, but it's still a frightening experience because you're used to a certain way of lifestyle. And so for me, uh, it was a it was important that I went through the transition assistance program, but also that I already had an opportunity lined up, so it wasn't as hard. But a lot of the things, as far as moving, being a single parent at the time, um, transitioning from England back over to the States, transitioning my son, so a lot of things that we don't take into account with military personnel is the families that are involved in the transition from that lifestyle into being more ingratiated in everyday lifestyles of civilians. And so for me, it was a matter of just really calming my nerves, having things organized and lined up, and being able to have everything kind of in order as much as I can control. I always tell people, just control what you can control, and then let the rest of hopefully work itself out. And while my experience wasn't as stressful, I know a lot of people that go under that endure the stress that's involved in transitioning because it really just can be really cumbersome. And I know you probably understand, Betty, just moving from Vancouver to Ireland, how stressful that can be. Moving overseas, whether you're moving across the street or overseas, it's always just stressful being under those circumstances.
Absolutely. And so many different details and little things prop up that you never even thought about before. And they become issues and problems and obstacles basically in you trying to settle into a completely new environment. So yeah, I can completely relate, Joanne, to that portion of what you're saying in terms of just getting settled in a completely new country. So I can only imagine how stressful that might have been. And it's funny that you said that your well, not funny. It's unfortunate that you said that your situation, even though it was stressful, is not even, you said, compared to others who have even more stressful situations when or circumstances when they're trying to transition into the workforce. So can you I guess name some examples of different challenges that veterans might have when it comes to transitioning into the civilian workforce?
Yeah, I think a lot of times as veterans, some of the challenges that we experience is the civilian sector having needing or not having a better understanding of the qualities that we present. Just talking about my journey and how I've been in different places, one of the things that we have ingratiated in us is that aspect of multiculturalism. Whether it's the backgrounds from the other people within the service that we serve with, or going to different countries and living on the economy or being ingratiated within their culture and learning more about that. That's something that's innate within us or that's instilled within us. And it's not oftentimes looked at as a quality from the civilian sector. The cross-functional communication that we're able to skill set that we're able to accumulate over time, because being from the IT background, I have to talk to a lot of different people from the logistics, going over to finance, working with their system, but just being able to have that cross-functional communication from a skill set standpoint, from a career path standpoint, all those things, the critical thinking that we have, problem solving, working under high intense pressure situations, teamwork and leadership, the understanding of the technology that we have and the globalization of that technology, and then the motivation. So I think a lot of challenges present themselves with organizations understanding how the qualities that we have can transition to their workforce. Also, one of the things is medical appointments. When we're transitioning out, whether you're already have your VA appointment set up or you're going for different things, having the ability to go to those medical appointments while you're still starting a new job, or whether you're already in that position and still need to meet those medical requirements from the VA. Another one is the limitations from the disabilities that we may have, because while you're in the service, you accumulate so much stress under your body, and you don't really realize that until you have to sit down behind a desk for 8 hours a day, because PT or physical training is incorporated within our day-to-day activities, right? And so when you sit down and now you're expected to be at work for 8 hours a day, and maybe you have lower back pains that didn't really present themselves as thoroughly before, but now, again, because you're sitting behind that desk for 8 hours, now you're starting to feel it. And so having the understanding of those disabilities and not just trying to endure because that's our mindset, that's some of the challenge. That's another challenge that we have. Another one is the understanding of gaps in employment for spouses, because oftentimes we always look at the military member themselves, but when we're talking about a veteran ready organization as opposed to a veteran friendly, we have to include the spouses in that. And a misconception or the ideal that most people have is just that the spouse is whether a woman, but you have male spouses as well. But sometimes being in the support positions that they are in, they may have those gaps in employment because of where you're located and things of that nature. So understanding when those applications come across your desk that they may have those gaps because they've been supportive. It doesn't mean that they're devoid of the skill sets that's necessary, because even if they're picking up volunteer roles, that displays leadership, organization, and so forth. So if we can, in the civilian sector, if we can understand that all these things are challenges that are presented, and when we look at the applications coming across our desks or we're interviewing these candidates, understanding how their skill sets can transition and help our organizations be better, be a value add, then I think that'll help alleviate some of the consternation that a lot of the organizations feel when it comes to hiring veterans or veteran employment.
Absolutely. And so many skills that you named there, JaJuan. I know for a fact we've heard many of our clients ask for them, especially when it came to like communication across like cross-functional teams, across departments and whatnot. That's a huge one. And that is a huge asset to definitely to teams that clients look for all the time. And, so I say that you're suggesting that, organizations just have to gain that understanding that the different factors that kind of come into play in terms of the challenges that veterans are kind of facing when entering into the civilian workforce, and not only understanding those, but recognizing, like you said, the different skill sets that can transfer over. Definitely.
Absolutely. Because I mean, when you talk about cross-functional teams, even from a technology standpoint, you may be working on a network, and then you may have to go over to your system administrators or your system engineers. So even internally within the IT sector, those things are important. And that's something that military members have innately with their job requirements, and we have to work together. So that teamwork is extremely important for not only the military, but for every organization across every industry.
Absolutely. And so in your opinion, JaJuan, what, I guess, can organizations do more of or change within the organization to either build a more inclusive hiring process, or actually both build a more inclusive hiring process, but also a more inclusive environment in the workplace?
I think it starts with familiarizing yourself with military culture. A lot of times when we're in these different service sections, we have it's embedded in us, and it's a point of emphasis to have high morale, because the higher your morale is, the more you can ingratiate yourself in your job and give your all to your fellow service member. and to your country. So having that morale, the camaraderie, understanding how that's important to us, that will go a long way. Also, the jargon and acronyms that we have. For instance, one of the acronyms that I always use was FYSA. Are you familiar with that means?
FYSA?
Yes.
No, no. Is it for
Okay.
your?
Well, you're good in the right direction. So it's me for your situational awareness. So I used to use that all the time as a reporting mechanism, or when I'm reporting to my supervisors and commanders. But when I use that outside, once I separated from the military and I used it, I'll always get, what does that mean? And for me, that was innate. I just thought everybody knew what that mean. And so not only do organizations have a hard time understanding the jargon and acronyms, but we also, as service members, we have to be able to adapt our mentality as well to be able to kind of come to a compromise and understand, maybe spell it out. Hey, this is what I mean when I say this, so that way they understand what you're meaning when you file up your reports or send an email or what have you. So just familiarizing yourself with military culture, also creating that culturally sensitive onboarding process. What I mean by that is get your ERGs or AGs involved, your better known as employee resource groups or affinity groups. If you have a veteran affinity group, get them involved in it. When you're doing the onboarding process, make people aware that you have these groups, whether it be the veterans resource group or Hispanic ERG or women's led ERG or Black ERG, all these different things, LBGTQIA plus, all these different ERGs that your organization may provide. Get them to understand that these are groups here for you and that can better assist you. But speaking specifically on the veteran one, if you have people within your organization, also utilize them. Know that you have those veterans in there. Sit down and maybe have some group discussions. Find out what their transition process was like. Find out what gaps may exist in your organization, so that way you can better assist new veterans coming in. Utilize them for that effort. But when you utilize them, also understand that they have a primary job. So part of that is those benefits or those rewards and recognition for the service that they're providing outside of their normal scope of responsibility. Understanding when we're still talking about culturally sensitive onboarding, understand the benefits for the local, state, or federal aspect that it provides for the organization as well as for the service or former service member. And also identify those differences and gaps in military provides for versus commercial. What I mean by that is sometimes we have, as service members, we may have insurance that we use from our former service member days, whether you're retired or whether you're separated or have a disability or whatnot. But how can you create avenues to where if they're not utilizing the insurance that your company is providing, what other benefits can you offer them that is alluring to them, or that can kind of bridge those gaps in between, that can attract that talent to you. So again, talking to your service members that are in the organization and finding out, generating ideals for them that can help benefit you in that aspect. Also, just build relationships with your VA representatives that are local. Pair them with mentors and liaisons within your organization that may be veterans or that can assist in helping that transition. But there is a myriad of ways that we can really build upon what already exists and really attract that talent, but also make them feel more comfortable and inclusive in the process within the organization.
That's Fantastic. And you know what I love too about the different suggestions that you were giving, JaJuan, is that a lot of them can be applied for any community, really.
Mhm.
Like you said, and just for diversity in general, all of those are applicable to everyone, really. You know, and I know we're actually having to kind of wrap up now, but yeah, I think this is something that people can easily implement within their own organizations. But JaJuan, if people wanted to connect with you after this, could I drop your LinkedIn into the comments?
Yeah, absolutely. More than
Awesome. I'll do that for our viewers. And again, we have the recording up on our company page. But thank you so much, JaJuan, for joining us. I know you're feeling under the weather, so we really appreciate you pushing through and still joining us for this episode. Really appreciate it and sharing
take
your
your
insight.
vitamin C.
Yeah, exactly. But thanks so much, JaJuan, and thanks everyone for
Thank you.
tuning in. Cheers.
Cheers.